People. But anyway, I'm from Clearwater, grew up here. My father was born here as well, um, uh, lifelong resident in the area. Went to USF. Who else went? Yeah, USF. I majored in speech communication, and I ended up with your back. So uh, I've got lifelong ties to the area, still in contact with a lot of high school friends and things like that. But um, I grew up in a family full of lawyers. My grandfather was a county and circuit and appellate judge in Florida. My father was an attorney for 30, 40 years, and his brother, my uncle, was the clerk of the Florida Supreme Court for over 30 years. So I grew up around lawyers. It's the people I grew up with. I always thought that if I ever became a lawyer, I'd have to smoke a cigar, though, for some reason. But fortunately, I didn't end up with that part of it. I am married to a lawyer. We're still married. We've been married 35 years, in 35 years in July. And we did, thank you. So, so I worked at a different firm that did litigation for most of that time. But about 10 years ago, my wife Noel said, "Why don't you come work for me? I'm sending work away that you could help us with." For instance, in some estates where you have a house, the owner has passed away, the mortgage gets stopped being paid, and there's a foreclosure going on. Well, I knew how to defend a foreclosure, and Noel didn't. So she was sending work out the door that she could keep in-house. So she began pressuring me and eventually won that argument. What a surprise. So I started working for her in 2019, which was just in time for COVID. And I was there in the nick of time because her business went up 42% from 2019 to 2020. It was just a huge uptick because people had time to think about their estate plans. And when you give people time to think about it, they realize that they need more than, the handwritten note in the drawer. There's a technical aspect to it, and there's an emotional aspect to it too. The way to refer people is to just get them to talk about their stuff, what they own. If you can get them to start thinking and asking themselves the question, what's going to happen to my stuff after I'm gone? That's the first step in getting them to start thinking about estate planning. Because people have certain ideas about what they want to happen after they die, and they may not have thought about how that gets put into practice. There are certain things that the law doesn't provide for. I've mentioned my grandfather, who was a county judge. He also was, him and another attorney substantially rewrote Florida's intestate succession laws. And that's what happens if you don't have a will. If you don't have a will, the state of Florida writes one for you, basically. And there's a lot of common sense to it. My father and his friend Daniel Redfern put a lot of thought into it, into a system that would take into account most of the things that would, what they thought most people would want to happen with their estate, to what heirs they would want it to go to, and what kind of order. But that doesn't fit for everyone. And what we try to do is have an estate plan that fits their needs. You have some unusual situations that you have to deal with, things like people that have pets. Have clients who have African gray parrots. That parrot is going to outlive that person. And what do you want to happen to something like that? So we have a lot of tools to do estate planning with. We do both wills and trust. Noel does the trust work. It's a little different, a little bit of an art form to it. And I don't know if I'll ever be able to spend enough time to get to where she's at with it. So I stay away from the trust drafting, leave that to her. I still do wills. We like people to have a will, but we feel like we've succeeded when we have a client pass away and their family calls us and they ask us, what do we need to do? And we ask them a series of questions. And many times when the client has followed all our advice and directives, there's nothing for them to do. Everything's been taken care of. We consider that a complete win, which is we're not getting a probate, we're not getting paid to do any more work, but we consider that a win for the client, is not having the heirs have to really do anything other than, travel around with death certificate and, get where they've made beneficiary designations. There's a little bit of work involved, but it's not a probate administration. Everybody who wants to talk about avoiding probate, it's not always possible. That's why we want you to have a will, because it's better to have a will and not need it than need a will and not have it. That's the other thing we do is we also plan for advanced directives. It's durable power of attorney, healthcare surrogate, and a living will. A durable power of attorney is very, very important for married couples, and it can be very important for couples in long-term relationships as well. It allows you to act for another person. It's obviously someone that you need to trust, but it can be a extremely valuable document. It can help avoid the imposition, or at least delay the imposition of a guardianship. Because if you're married, something happens to your spouse, they're in a coma, and you need to do something with jointly held property. The only way you can do that is if you have a durable power of attorney, because they are not able to sign documents, not able to make agreements, financial arrangements, that kind of thing. So a durable power of attorney will help you take care of your spouse when they're not able to function, and you won't have to go through the guardianship proceeding, which is expensive and it's time consuming, and many times it's emotionally devastating for a person to be told that they're under a guardianship. So anyway, we try to help people. That's our goal, is to help people and make life easier for them and give them peace of mind about what's going to happen to their stuff when they die. That's it. Any questions?
So, isn't the Clearwater High Stadium named after your grandfather?
Yes, it is. He was a huge supporter of, he was strongly believed in the importance of athletics, and he said, train the body and the mind will follow. He believed in, physical activity, and went to, my uncle is in the Clearwater High School Athletic Hall of Fame. He was star at everything. And my grandfather didn't miss a football game. He went to football games for years after that. So they honored him with that in the 60s.
One quick question.
Thank you.